President Obama refusing to call that $400 million payment to Iran a ransom. One of the hostages, though, that was released by Iran is raising more questions in an interview that was done right here on Fox Business. Watch this.
They told us we were going to be there for 20 minutes, but it took like hours and hours. We slept at the airport, and when I asked them why you don't let us go, because the plane was there, pilot was there, everyone was ready that we leave the country, they said we are waiting for another plane, and until that plane doesn't come, we never let you go.
Trish Regan will have more on this at the top of the next hour on her program. But first, the former Pentagon official Michael Rubin is with us. And well, what do you make of that, Michael, that the hostage himself said, hey, we're waiting for one plane to come in so the other one can take off?
Well, you know, it's pretty clear that this was a ransom. The Iranians are calling it a ransom as well. The head of the Basij, which is Iran's paramilitary, said this absolutely was a ransom. It really seems to be Arms for Hostages, the sequel.
Okay, what is the fallout then from that as we move forward? I mean, yeah, it's a big story for a few days, and then something else happens, we get on to talking about something else. But what's the long-term fallout from the fact that if a ransom was paid, we paid $400 million to get these hostages out?
Well, Connell, what happens in Tehran doesn't stay in Tehran. So if we did pay a ransom, like, by the way, we more or less did with the Bo Bergdahl hostage exchange, then ultimately what that says to every rogue regime and terrorist group out there is Americans are the path to prosperity. It puts a target on our back. And that's something which we're going to be living with for years, if not decades, to come.
Now, the president made this argument. I was watching his news conference yesterday at the Pentagon when he was questioned about this. And, you know, he basically says, hey, we said this was going to happen. This was all public, and I added my White House press secretary, Josh Earnest, had a briefing on it, and everybody knew this was going to happen. So because of that, it's not a ransom. Now, even if you accept that, however, the timing of it happening on the same day with money changing hands and Earnest unable to answer directly a question which would have said, hey, if the money didn't come, would they have been released? Then you still have a perception problem, no matter what you define it as, right? I mean, it looks that way, even whatever it is.
Connell, I don't think the president's spin is going to stick here, because during the course of negotiations, remember, we also released or dropped charges against 8 Iranians who were imprisoned or in court for trying to circumvent American sanctions on Iran. Now, as that agreement was reached around Christmas in 2015, the Iranians came back to the American negotiators and said, no, we need a little bit more just to show Iran that we got something in addition, and that's when the $400 million was pro-offered. So it seems pretty clear that this was a quid pro quo. Back in the 80s when this happened, as soon as the last plane load of money came, 3 more hostages were taken, and that seems to be what's happened again this time.
Right, there are other, to your point, Iranian Americans being held there, right? That's your point.
Absolutely. We had one that was never released, an American, Bob Levinson, a former FBI agent, but after this deal was made, the Iranians quickly seized more Iranian Americans, and seemed to be holding out for a second deal. And ultimately, this is our money for hostages.
As I said, Trish Regan will talk more about that. It was a terrific interview that she had yesterday with one of the hostages. But Michael Rubin, thank you very much for coming on right now. We appreciate it.
Thank you.